2025 wide receiver Adrian Wilson, who signed with Colorado in December here, has entered the transfer portal and committed to Bill Belichick in North Carolina. Now, Rodney, this is an interesting development here because Adrian here committed to Colorado after decommitting from Arizona State, but that's just the beginning of it. Wilson hasn't even played a down in college football, but has already been on quite the journey since June of 2023. Wilson has been committed to TCU, Oregon, Arizona State, signed with Colorado, and now he lands in Chapel Hill with Bill Belichick in North Carolina here. Rodney, first off, seeing this from Adrian Wilson, we've seen him compete in Colorado spring practice a little bit. I was a little bit surprised by seeing him enter the transfer portal, but based on his history, this is what it is, I guess. But let me ask you, when you're seeing kids across college football having played at 4 and 5 schools or having switched schools in this short a time for a class of 2025 kid, what goes through your brain seeing this, considering you were just playing 6 or 7 years ago, and now you're seeing kids that are transferring 4 and 5 times. You're seeing kids that are 26 years old in college football, all just crazy stuff. Ronnie, what are your thoughts here? Go ahead.
Man, it's hard because you never really know what he's dealing with, what Adrian is dealing with. There could be a litany of different reasons as to why he's jumped around so many times. But then, that thought always does creep into your head. Is this what we're talking about? Abuse of the transfer portal? I don't know, dude. It's kind of just the way it is these days. I try not to get too caught up in guys bumping around. Like that could have never been me, I think is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. I want to go to a place and trust in where I'm at and give it a real shot and develop myself, because then I can really get an understanding of who I am as a player and what I need as a player. I think we're getting to some type. What I would love to see, especially with NIL, I would love to see contracts.
Yes,
that, and not necessarily just because of money. I want to see contracts that lock guys in.
Yeah.
Sign a 1 or 2 year, or not one, sign like a 2-year contract that locks you in. You understand where you're at. You give it your best shot. You're getting paid, so that shouldn't be a worry. Just focus on you, focus on the guys in the room, and see how good you can be at any given spot. I think he could have been successful at Colorado, but we'll never know, and he'll never know. And so, hopefully, this is a good move for him. It's such a tough question, just because I try to see both sides of everything. I understand that you want to look for the best spot, but at the same time, how are you doing that? I guess is
great point. No, Rodney, great point. That's the exact reason why I asked you this. And a couple things I wanted to highlight here. Colorado also saw edge rusher Tajay McCoy into the transfer portal, and Hall of Famer Warren Sapp is his defensive line coach, or one of his defensive line coaches here. And Warren Sapp was taken by surprise by this, all these transfer portal moves here. I wanted to show Warren Sapp's comments on all these moves from coming out of Colorado. Take a listen.
Transfer portal thing, man. You're waking up with, all of a sudden, you got 3-4 names that you need to call and text and find out if this is true, the rumors. Yeah. And one of them was true, and it's something new for me. It's something new. I figured, why would you want to leave a room with me? I'm here for you, baby. Yeah. I'm here for you. It's all about you. It's all about you. I mean, I'm good. Whatever I got going, it's been that way, and it's gonna stay that way.
Absolutely. I say all.
I thought hearing that from Sapp is it speaks to I think a lot of coaches in college football have that same sentiment here. And looking on the positives of the system that is college football here, here's Bill Belichick here. He says, "This era of college football is new for all of us. It reminds me of when the NFL introduced free agency in 1993. We've dealt with hundreds of free agents. Some aspects are similar and some are different here." Interesting comments coming from Adrian Wilson's new head coach in Chapel Hill here. Rodney, I just threw a lot at you there, but your thoughts on, first off, Warren Sapp's comments on the transfer portal. Do you think a lot of coaches across college football share that same sentiment he does there? And then Bill Belichick's comments calling it free agency like it was, when the NFL adopted that here. Do you see any similarities there? Go ahead.
I agree with Warren. I share his same sentiment. If it's like when I came to OU, I'm I made this decision because I want to be coached by the guy that coached Adrian Peterson and DeMarco Murray and all these other great backs. Why would I leave? You know, especially if I like I say, you have to give yourself some time. You have to understand yourself and see if you're making progress. If I got into a room and the guys, you know, we weren't competitive, we weren't hitting it off, I wasn't seeing improvement in myself as a player, then okay, like let's have a conversation about it. You know, let's see what we can, if we can make that happen. If I can get myself better, you know, make some tweaks. Maybe I am the change, you know, who knows? Yeah. But to just, you know, make that decision and kind of leave everybody in the dark, like it couldn't have been me. I think there's a lot about this era of college sports that just couldn't have been me. And, you know, and then Bill Belichick, I'm not going to question anything that man has to say. You know, he definitely knows what he's doing. It does kind of feel like free agency a little bit. You know, you cut ties with the team for whatever reason. Now you're looking for your next. You know, that's kind of it in a nutshell, and that's kind of what we're dealing with. I think it's surprising because what college football has always been traditionally is guys just truly wanting to improve on the game, still wanting to be a part of a team. Yeah. It was really kind of that last step before you turn professional where it means more than just, you know, money or anything like that. You're playing for the love of the game. You want to be better. You want to become the best and go to the league. And now it seems like it's getting a little bit, I don't know if tarnished is the right word because of the NIL and the transfer portal and all this stuff. I don't know that it's, like I said, I don't think tarnish is the right word, but it's just different, you know, it's the new normal. I don't think college sports or anything like that is going away. I don't think the competition is going to go down, but it's just going to take some getting used to.
Absolutely. And Rodney, I work for the Last Chance U coach, Coach JB. He calls it watered down. I don't know if I look at it like that, but I look at it kind of parody, so to speak, and definitely a different game, you know, from 6 years ago here. You work in NIL for Oklahoma here, and I got to ask you, before you get out of here, I can't thank you enough for joining. How do you fix this system? Or would you change anything if you were in charge of the NCAA? Do you think Nick Saban needs to come and be the commissioner of football here? What needs to change in this, what people call Wild Wild West system of college football, considering you work in it and, you know, get a firsthand look at it every single day?
I mean, it changes every single day. So I don't know that this answer is even going to hold up, but I think initially for a minute, I thought, you know, to fix this, let's just go back to the old transfer portal rules. You know, if you transfer, you got to sit out. Cause then to me that deters guys from wanting to leave because then they got to sit, and no school with the money problems that everybody is having is going to want to pay a guy an outrageous amount of money if he's just going to sit on the bench. Right. And so, you know, maybe fix the transfer portal rules back to how they were. Again, a guy that tries to see two sides of every story, does that put guys that truly take advantage of the transfer portal the way it was intended to be? Does that put them in a bind? Maybe. I don't know. It could. Yeah. There's not really a perfect solution. I think, you know, one of my recent ideas, I don't even know that I can take credit because, you know, we talk NIL all day and this was just thrown out the other day. Do you do contracts, you know, writing up contracts that lock guys in for longer than just a year or just a semester? Right. You know, they as long as they're here, they get their guaranteed money. If you break contract or you decide to hit the transfer portal, then, you know, are there fines? Are there, you know, penalties? You know, do you have to sit longer? You know, that's opening up a whole other Pandora's box, and we haven't even figured out how to deal with the one we have open right now. So I don't know. I think that there's definitely going to be a lot of change coming soon, especially with the House settlement and all this stuff. And so we'll see. I don't know. That's above my pay grade. I don't make the big decisions. I just solve the problems in front of me on a day-to-day. So,
well, man, Rodney, I think you gave a great solution, and I think I've heard a lot of people have the same answers as you. And contracts, bringing back potentially the old portal rules, or not giving players NIL until after their first year of college. I've heard it all. I've had Super Bowl champion Sean King talk about it.
I would say I disagree with the not giving it first year.
Really? Know? Why do you say that?
Because in some way, shape, or form, there's hype built around players, high school players coming out that schools go and sell. And if they're selling anything that has to do with the name, image, and likeness of any player, I don't care if they've done anything at the university or not, if they're making money off of it, then I do believe that that player deserves a cut. Because what was all this at the beginning of NIL in the first place?
Right.
You know, schools making all this money, TV making all this money, athletes deserve a cut. And so I think they deserve it. I definitely don't think that any 17, 18-year-old kid coming out of high school that has not played a down at the university needs an outrageous amount of money. Right. I don't think you pay them millions. I definitely don't. You definitely don't pay them millions. I don't think they need hundreds of thousands, but just what they're worth, you know. And then there comes a question, you know, how do you determine worth? How, you know, they haven't done anything. How do you determine worth? So it comes off of hype, and that's true market value. And so how do you decide what an athlete's true market value is coming out of high school? It's hard because the market that they're going into hasn't determined that yet. And so, you know, I feel that they need something. If the school's going to make any type of dime off of them, I feel like they deserve something, but definitely not, you know, a huge paycheck off rip.
Man, Rodney, you changed my perspective on that specific, part of it, so to speak, like completely. Because I think that's a great, you know, because I have never heard anybody say, like, because we, you know, how do I say this? On the shows that I work with, they're very black and white about this. It's either they want it all open, doing it one way, or they don't want it at all. JB don't want it at all. Matt's the opposite. Matt Manchese is all for this, and there needs to be some sort of regulation, right? And it's really, really interesting. And, you know, we could talk about this forever. But I think the thing you mentioned about high school players, they definitely, you know, especially the hype of the bigger players here, they definitely, you know, deserve to be compensated for that. The school's definitely going to make money off that. And, determining that, you know, value is very –
It's – I mean, you got that – that's used to be what the spring game was. You know,
right.
You got these kids coming in mid-year. Maybe they – get to ball in spring, they get to, you know, figure out what their worth is a little bit. You know, now spring games are going away, you know, but that's, I think my point was that you got kids coming out of high school going to play in spring game. There are stadiums that fill up, that people pay tickets to go watch the new recruits, you know?
True.
True. And if new recruits are the driving factor, they want to see who's balling and who's not. Those are ticket sales that are directly correlated to those new recruits. And so they do deserve a share, even if they haven't necessarily scored a meaningful touchdown. But, you know, the shares shouldn't, you know, be the same as the guys that have been there.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
I think people need to understand that it's going to get, in my opinion, I think it's going to start to look more and more like an NFL model. You know, you got a rookie coming in. You may have went first round and had a huge signing bonus, but everybody's rookie salary is the same.
Yeah.
And so, you know, how crazy would it be if some, you know, rookie running back, Rodney Anderson, walks in there and goes, wait a second, Joe Mixon, you're making how much? I deserve that. Like, no, that's crazy. Yeah, I'm going to be happy with my rookie salary.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to prove my worth. And then there's negotiations that happen. And so, you know, I think that's what it should be, what it should get to. You know, again, what do I know? I saw problems when they're laid in front of me, and I 1 foot at a time.